If you are patient and you watch these videos all the way to the end and you're very attentive and you learn and you commit some of these things to memory and you focus intently on what I'm trying to teach you in here, you're going to learn a lot. And as a young person, you're going to have the ability to take advantage of what some people spend their whole lives trying to figure out. And you're going to know some things that other people only learn later in their life, but you're going to know them as a much younger person. This video is entitled Earnings to Ownings because it encapsulates an important principle that if you commit it to heart and you apply it to your everyday life, you will become a prosperous person. Because it's all about converting earned income to performing assets as a strategy for lifetime prosperity. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to do that and how important it is to do that. But the general idea here is we all earn money through our jobs. Most people spend it all. Most people just have money coming in and then they have money going out, and at the end of the month they don't have any money left. Or as some people have once said, at the end of my money I've got too much month left. However you want to phrase it, that's the way most Americans live and work. I want you to do differently because I want you to become a prosperous person, to have a prosperous lifestyle. I'm going to tell you how you do that because it's really simple. First, I'm going to start with some definitions and some disclaimers, though, because I want to talk about what a performing asset is. It's something you own that can produce income for you, right? It's a thing that you own, a thing that you buy that will pay you, okay? And it's one of the best types of income to have when you own something that pays you something. It's even better than a job. You know why? Because jobs, earned income, are taxed much higher than investment income for the most part. So, for example, when I earn $1 in my job, I have to pay federal taxes. Federal income tax, that is. I have to pay Social Security tax. And if I live in an income tax state, Texas isn't, so thank goodness for that, I also have to pay state income tax. But there are certain types of investment income, performing assets, that is, where you pay little to no tax, or at least the tax rates are much, much lower. Why is it that the rich keep getting richer? Because they don't earn their income. They get income from investments, and investments are taxed at a much, much lower rate. How do I get started if I don't have much money? Well, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. That's important to do, but as I spoke of in class, it's very important that in order for you to be able to purchase performing assets, you have to have money left over after you pay your bills every month. So the less debt you have and the lower your living expenses, the more you have to invest in performing assets. And that process of converting earned income to owned assets that will produce income for you is the most important key to becoming wealthy, to becoming a prosperous person. You have to convert earned income into performing assets. You can't do it if all your income is going to bills. You got to reduce the expenses and you got to eliminate debt. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it. That's the only way you're going to have a little bit of money left over every month so that you can do exactly what I'm talking about in this video. So a quick quiz. Which of the following items below is a performing asset? Manolo Blahnik shoes, One Direction memorabilia with their autographs, a really, really, really cool truck, or a share of stock in the company called Hershey's that makes chocolate. Well, if you guess the Hershey stock, you're correct, because only one of these four things will actually pay you something for owning it. The shoes, well, you might like them and they're really cool, and there's nothing against owning shoes you like, but they're not going to pay you anything. The One Direction stuff, guys, I hate to break it to you, but 20 years from now, people are going to say, One Direction, who is that? Harry Styles and all the rest of them will be in rehab and on their fourth wife, and their lives will be a wreck and whatever. No one's going to care about the poster that was signed by all of them. The truck, I'm a guy. I love trucks. They're really cool. They're shiny. They're neat. They're fun to drive, but they go down in value. They don't pay you anything. Hershey stock, however, has the ability to pay you things called dividends. It goes up in value. It has the ability to produce income and replace your earned income one day, right? Now, this is a disclaimer. I'm not telling you to go out and buy Hershey stock. I'm not telling you to do anything like that. I'm not going to give you investment advice in here at all. I'm just going to talk to you about what these things are, what your choices or options are, and some general strategies that you want to pursue in your life that are going to help you get ahead. But the first thing you have to know is, what's a performing asset? It's a thing that provides income after you buy it. Not something that goes down in value, not something that collects dust, not something that other people might or might not want one day. It's something that is designed to make you money. Okay? So let's talk about the first type of performing asset, debt instruments. Now you say, well, debt, Dr. Linton, you said debt is a bad thing. It's not bad to own debt. It's bad to owe debt, right? But you can loan money to different entities and make good money from it. So loaning money to banks, companies, and the government is what we're talking about here. When you loan money to a company, bank, or government, for you, that's an asset. That's their IOU. It's something you own. It's of value, right? They owe you. They got to pay you. Therefore, you own an asset that they have as a liability. It's something they got to pay you, right? Under law, they have to pay you. So that asset, that bond or whatever it is, can be bought or sold. You can sell a government bond or a corporate bond. You can cash in a CD. But either way, you're paid interest when you own it. So it is a performing asset. It's something you own that pays you money. You can buy savings bonds from the U.S. government in small amounts online. They used to do paper bonds like the one up in the right-hand corner up there, but now they don't do paper. It's all online. You guys are all computer savvy, so you don't need paper stuff. You do everything online anyway. But you can buy them in small denominations every single month. The U.S. government pays you interest on it, and it's a way of accumulating an asset that pays money. You can buy bonds of major corporations online in a brokerage account. I'll talk about brokerage accounts in a little bit, but the one down at the bottom there is a McDonald's corporation. You know what McDonald's is. Everybody knows what a McDonald's is. McDonald's and other corporations occasionally need to go out there and borrow money from the general public, and it pays you a certain percentage of interest, and it's due over a certain period of time. So it might be a 10-year bond or a 20-year bond or a 5-year bond, and they're going to pay you 4%, 5%, 6%, whatever it is. You give them the $1,000 or $5,000 or to $10,000 or whatever amount of money, and they pay you back with interest. That is a valuable asset. That is a performing asset because you're making money on it. We'll talk more about brokerage accounts later. Or you could just go down to a bank or go to an online bank. Most of you guys probably don't even like brick and mortar banks anymore. Go to an online bank and buy a certificate of deposit. A certificate of a deposit is give the bank the money. The bank says once your period of time that they hold it is up, they give you the money back plus the interest that it earns, okay? Sometimes these are kind of crummy interest rates, I realize, but it's money, right? And you're able to own that CD. It's an asset. It's a performing asset because it's making you money. In each case, you have a performing asset that earns you money even while you sleep. That's the cool thing. It's earning interest. All these things are earning interest while you're not even at work. While you're sleeping, while you're having fun, while you're at the beach. Your money's making money while you're resting. The riskier the institution, the higher the interest rate. If you want to loan money to Uncle Sam, you're not going to get a lot because everybody knows he's going to pay you back. Well, at least we think he is, right? You're going to loan money to McDonald's. McDonald's is pretty good bet. They're going to pay it back. They're not going anywhere, so the interest rate you get is not going to be very much. If you loan money to Joe Bob's Garage Emporium and, who knows who this guy is, he better pay you a lot of money because I've never heard of the guy, right? So the riskier the investment, the higher the return. But then again, you may not want to do that, right? Banks, the U.S. government, federally insured. McDonald's is not. So you would expect McDonald's is going to pay more interest than Uncle Sam is because there's no guarantee. I mean, it could go out of business. Probably won't, but it could, right? Your bank, it has to pay you the interest because it's federally insured, okay? Second type of performing asset that everybody talks about all the time is stocks. Now, stocks, what are stocks? Well, when you buy a stock, you're simply buying a piece of a company. That's all they are. That's why they call them shares. It's your share of ownership in the company. Your share of Netflix, ExxonMobil, Apple, Walt Disney, Starbucks, whatever it is. When you buy a share of one of these companies, you are part owner of the company. It's kind of a cool thing, right? If you own some shares of Starbucks and you walk into a Starbucks and you say, hey, I'm part owner of this company, it's kind of a cool thing. The stock market is where people buy, sell, and trade these pieces of companies. That's all it is. The stock market is where people go and they say, I have shares of Apple and I want to sell them. And some guy says, I'll buy them from you and I'll pay you this price. What price is paid? Whatever the two parties agree on. That's what they pay. Right? So if one day nobody wants to buy any Apple and you're trying to sell it, you're going to probably take a big loss because there aren't any buyers around. Okay? So it really is naked capitalism where people pay what they want to pay and people sell for what they want to sell, and you have to have a meeting of the minds. Now, the great thing about owning pieces of companies called stock is that you can make money two ways. Number one, if you buy a share of Starbucks at $50, and a year from now, people are willing to buy that share from you at the stock market for $55 or $60, you could sell it and you could make a profit on what you paid for the stock. So if you bought it at $50 and it goes up to $60, you made $10 a share, however many shares you own. That's called a gain or a capital gain. You made profit on what you bought and invested in and then sold. But also the second way that stocks make money, not all stocks do this, but most do to some extent, is this. Hey, you're the owner, you have part ownership, therefore you get a piece of the profits. That's why you own a company, isn't it? To make profit. And so that's called a dividend. Now, companies they sell things, and then that's called revenue, and then they or do services and whatnot. Then they have to decide. The board of directors has to decide, what are we going to do with all the money we made? Are we going to pay off debt? Are we going to buy new factories? Are we going to increase the wages of our employees? What are we going to do? But after they make all those decisions, what's left over, pure profit, is in the form of dividends, and each shareholder gets their share of the dividend, their share of the after expense profits. And those profits are distributed usually 4 times a year, called quarterly. So if you own 100 shares of ExxonMobil, right, the gas company, the gasoline company, the oil company, then 4 times a year, Exxon sends you this little check based on how many shares you have, of course, because that determines how much of the profit you get, called a dividend check, or they'll put it in your bank, or they'll do something else called reinvest it, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But it's a really cool idea because you're getting paid. Ideally, if the stock goes up over 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 years, the value of the company goes up. Therefore, your initial investment is worth more. Your share of stock is worth more. And then all that time, all those years, you're also collecting this thing called dividends or profits. So you can make money 2 different ways. Now, here's the problem. You got to choose your companies very carefully because you got to do your homework. So that's the hard part, right? What companies are going to make money? What companies are doing well versus what companies are going down the tubes? If you bought JCPenney or Sears a few years ago, you're really sorry. If you bought Apple or Netflix and today, they're doing great. Who knows about tomorrow? So you have to do a lot of research on them. You have to figure out, are they making money? Do they seem like they're making money? Do they have a lot of debt? Are they managed well? Are they positioned well in their industry? It's a lot of work to be able to do that, correct? So you can't just throw darts at a dartboard and hope you make money. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but there are 3 ways that you can buy stocks. Number 1, you can open up a brokerage account, which I'll talk about in a little bit. You work with Schwab or Fidelity or something like that, and you fund the account, and then you figure out, what do I want to buy? And you can go do research, and they'll provide you with online research tools that allows you to find out all kinds of things about different companies and figure out what kind of stock you'd like to buy. The second thing, which is kind of a neat thing because it's very inexpensive, is what's called a direct stock purchase program. Computershare is a company that lets you do this. In other words, you can buy your stock basically directly from Exxon or Walt Disney or Hershey or whomever. And you can buy it a little bit at a time. You can buy like 1 share a month or what have you. And when you get your dividend, guess what? You can direct that company, Exxon or Hershey or whomever, to say, I don't want a check for my dividends. Every month, every quarter, I want you to take the dividend check or the dividend money and buy me more shares of the company. It's called reinvestment, dividend reinvestment. And so you end up with more and more and more shares as you go by. I did this with my daughter with Hershey. That's why I use the example. We bought a share a month for a long time while she was a kiddo because it was a company she could understand. She liked chocolate. It was a fairly well-run company. It wasn't a terribly expensive company. And we figured it was a safe bet because people always like chocolate. It wasn't any rocket science to it, but we did it through a direct stock purchase plan because it was almost almost no fees involved, hardly at all. It was very easy to do. It was very easy to understand, and we didn't have a lot of money back then, and so we just thought it was an easy way to do it. Now, a third way is to buy in bundles called mutual funds or ETFs, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. If you want to buy stocks in bundles, not just a single stock, then you would want to buy something called an ETF or a mutual fund. Because guess what? You can lose money owning a company. Duh, right? Everybody knows that. If you start up a company, you could lose money. Well, big companies go out of business too, right? Ask Enron, and poor old Sears and JCPenney are right on the brink. So you could lose money. So if you put all your money in one company stock and then you wake up the next morning and there's a headline that says XYZ company out of business and you put all your money in it, you just lost. You own nothing, right? So a lot of people say, well, I'd like to own hundreds of stocks then, but I'm not rich. How could I do that? Spreading the risk is a good idea, so why not buy lots of companies' stock? Well, because I'm not rich, you say. Well, then there's an answer to that. What do people do when they want to own lots of stocks, but they don't have a lot of money? They pool their money with other investors, right? So you say, well, I don't have $8 million. All I've got is like 700 or 800 or 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever. I can't go buy all these different stocks and all these companies. That would be a good idea. What I can do, though, is I can put my money into a mutual fund, right? Mutually beneficial fund that other investors pool their money with. We all go in together, and then we have a management team that goes out and picks the stocks that we want to invest in. An ETF is basically the same kind of thing, only it's cheaper to own, right? It's called an exchange traded fund. Basically the same idea. Bundles of shares of companies is what they are, okay? So you can buy stocks in a single industry like healthcare or technology, or you can buy the whole stock market itself. Indices like the S&P 500, which is the 500 biggest companies in the United States, or the Wilshire 5000, the 5,000 biggest companies, or the Russell 2000, the 2,000 companies within that index, right? It's just a big bunch of companies, or they can simply have a simple goal like growth or income. But regardless, people pool their money because they want to be invested in lots of stocks, but they don't have a ton of money to be able to do that. They want to spread the risk over lots and lots of different companies, so they go hire a management team, or you pay a fee to do that. They charge you fees, and you're paying for somebody, a team of people, to pick stocks for you, and it gives you what's called diversification over the market. You're not invested in one company that if it goes belly up, you lose everything, okay? Now, how about what would you do if you wanted to get started? Well, it's really, really simple. If you want to get started doing something like that, buying bonds or CDs or stocks or mutual funds or ETFs, you can do that simply by opening up a brokerage account. You have to, step one, you have to decide, is this going to be for retirement or is it not going to be for retirement? Simple. You can do either one, doesn't matter. They're handled the same way. You just have to let the company know this is going to be a retirement account or it's going to be a regular account. You choose a company you like. I have an account with Schwab and I have an account with Fidelity, but there's places like Ameritrade and Scottrade and a whole bunch of them. Then you fill out the online information and you link it to your bank account. You've got to link it to your bank account because how are you going to get money into it, right? You don't want to mail stuff, right? That's kind of dumb. Not in this day and age. And then step 4, you figure out what investments you want to buy, and you follow the tutorials. Most of these companies have great tools for learning all about different things and doing your research and sniffing out and saying, ooh, I was going to invest in that company, but ooh, it looks like they've got a lot of problems in that company, or they've got debts that they can't pay, or their sales are down, or this analyst or that analyst says that they've got difficulty, or this one looks like a good company, but maybe it's a little bit too high priced. I want to wait for the stock to come down a bit before I buy. All that kind of stuff. You can do all kinds of, you can get like knee deep in this stuff and get into it. But you want to make sure that you figure out what kind of investments you want to buy. I think you should mostly start off with really steady, conservative kinds of things like bonds. That's me, but that's up to you. And then you set up automatic funding each payday where it comes straight out of your checking account or your bank account. So you get paid and it goes into your bank account, and then a few days later it automatically sends however much money you pre-designate into the brokerage account. And when you have enough stuff to buy another thing like another bond or another CD or another stock or mutual fund, you do it that way. It's really simple. It's really not hard. You guys would take to it very quickly. It's very simple to do. Now, as I said, one of the things that you can do with your investments is that you can invest in a retirement account. You say, but Dr. Lynn, I don't even have my first job yet. I'm not even out of college yet. Why are you talking to me about retirement? Because of that power of compounding that I talked about in class. That's so amazing. There are lots of different types of retirement accounts. We don't have to get into the weeds about that. 401k, 403b, 457, IRAs, Roth IRAs, all this kind of stuff. But for the most part, the reason retirement accounts are such good vehicles for putting your assets into, okay, and investing inside of one of these types of accounts, putting stocks and mutual funds and bonds inside these things, is because, and here's the sweet thing, the money comes out of your paycheck before you pay tax on it, and it can grow tax-free until you retire, okay? Now, follow what I'm saying here. Say you get paid $100 in your paycheck. You got to take out the taxes. Uncle Sam wants his money. You see him up there with the gun, he wants his money, okay? So you're going to pay state taxes, federal taxes, whatever you got to pay, okay? So for every $100, you're probably going to come home with maybe $75, $80, something like that. And then you go and invest it. Well, that's nice, you should. But what if all $100 came out before Uncle Sam got his taxes and you were able every month to invest $100, not $75 or $80. That's more money that you invest every paycheck, and it grows faster. And get this, as long as you keep it in there until you're 70 and a half, it keeps growing and growing, and all the profit on it is tax-free until you retire. That means that more money goes in because it goes in before you pay tax, and it grows without ever having to pay tax on it until you get old. It can grow super fast. I mean, really fast. Now, here's the other beautiful thing. Depending on what kind of company you work for, you want to ask this question. You want to ask the very important question, hey, do you have a 401k plan? And if so, do you match my contributions? Because a lot of employers will match your contribution up to a certain point. What they'll say is, if for every dollar you put in, we'll put in $1 all the way up to, say, 5% of your salary. Okay? At TWU, it's actually, for me, it's 6.65% that they match all the way up. They don't give me a choice. I have to do it. But nevertheless, I invest 6.5%. They invest 6.5%. Okay. If you turn that down, if your company has a 401k fund that matches, and you turn it down, you're turning away free money. Why wouldn't you take the money? Right? All you got to do is save a certain amount, and they'll match it. Free money is what that's called. So here's the thing. You can do a 401k at your workplace, but you can then also do an IRA or a Roth IRA on your own, as long as you earn money. That means now, even if you've got a job, doesn't matter what your age, if you've got a job and you have earned income, you can invest in an IRA. You can do that. You can open an IRA and you can invest in it, and you're never going to have to worry about the limit. The limit's like $5,000-$6,000 a year. You're not going to save that kind of money as a young person. You don't have the ability to do that right now. But you can put some in, and you can do this. You can open one at Schwab or Fidelity or Scottrade or whatever. You can open one tomorrow. If you've got earned money, you can do it tomorrow. The employer plans usually don't give you a lot of choice when it comes to who manages it, because they have to work that out. But for IRAs, you can pick any company you like, anyone you want. And you can do it as long as you've got earned income. You can open up an IRA with a brokerage account, and you can get started as soon as you want to. Now, you don't want to do this unless and until you know that you've got other expenses taken care of because you're in college. But I am saying that if you wanted to do it, you have a long time horizon. It doesn't take much to make a big difference in your future. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about in terms of a performing asset is one that a lot of people say, well, you have to be rich to do this, but you actually don't. Let me tell you why. And that is real estate. Real estate can be a great asset. Maybe it's the best one. Owning rental property can provide you with a check a month for life, right? See a tiny little house up there? Suppose you own that and you had a renter, right? Now, it's not a fortune, but if you own that house and somebody rents it from you, they pay you rent every single month. That's like having a check a month for life. That is pretty good. Remember what I talked about? Turning earnings into ownings so that your ownings one day can help provide for you the kind of earnings you can't make because you can't earn a paycheck anymore because you're maybe too old or sick or whatever. This is a great way of replacing earned income, is through something called rental income, right? You can also save the rent from one property to buy your next one, and so on and so forth. So if you just said, well, I'm not going to live on that money. I'm going to pile it up and buy another rental property, and then pile that up and buy another one. And after I own 2, I'm going to buy a third. And after I own 3, it'll be even easier to buy a fourth, and so on and so forth. A lot of people do that. In fact, real estate has tremendous tax advantages that earned income doesn't, and that other income sources don't. So much so that 90% of millionaires made the bulk of their fortune in real estate. Throughout history in the United States, 90% of millionaires made most of their fortune in real estate. So it is a huge moneymaker, and it is very important. You can do what we call house hacking. First thing you do is say to yourself, wait a minute, instead of buying a little house when I get married or when I get started in life, I might buy a duplex instead. Live in half of it, rent the other half out. And after about 4 or 5 years, I'm collecting all that rent from the other side, and my bills for my house payment are about half of what they would be with a regular house. I can take the profit, go buy a regular house, and then rent the other side of the duplex out that I've vacated, and now I've got a property that is a performing asset for me. And I'm living in a house that I want to live in. But you need to do it the first few years. You want to live in that duplex, and you can convert that thing into a really profitable rental house. I didn't do that when I was younger. Kind of wish I had. I don't think my wife would have gone for it, but it's a really great way to start off with real estate, and you live in it for a few years. So let's say that the thing is costing you, $1,800 a month as a house payment. Well, you're renting one half out for about $1,100, which you could easily do, and that means your housing cost every month for the years that you're living in the duplex are about $700 a month. Wow, you can get ahead if all you're paying is $700 a month for your house payment and somebody else is paying the majority of the payment for you. Meanwhile, you're paying the mortgage down and you're piling up money, and you can move out to your regular house, and then when you're ready, you can rent both sides of it, and you're making way more than the house payment on the duplex originally was. It's called house hacking. It's a really cool thing. What if you say, well, I don't have that much money. I'm not that far along. What can I do? Well, the answer is, let's say you don't have enough money to buy a house or even to buy a duplex and rent out half of it. One of the great things that you can do is invest in a real estate investment trust. Real estate investment trust, REIT. Right? And what they do is the same thing as a mutual fund or an EFT. They say, well, what are all these little investors? They don't want to buy a $5 million apartment complex. They don't have that kind of money. Some people do, but most people don't. Instead, they pool their money into a real estate investment trust, and then they hire a team that goes out and invests in things like shopping malls or apartment complexes or commercial property. Now, listen, there are ones that make money and there are a lot of them that lose money, okay? So you can't just go blindly. I'm not recommending that you go out and invest in all these things. I'm just telling you what you have available in the universe of performing assets to choose to invest in. But just because you don't have the money to buy an actual house doesn't mean you can't get started investing in real estate, because there are vehicles that allow you to do that with a little bit of money. Think about this. The student housing that exists, the off-campus student housing in Denton, the apartment complexes and those kinds of things. Who do you think owns that? Companies own that. What kind of companies? Companies that have investors. Investors that are little guys who send in their $150 a month, right? Guess what? You have the ability, don't think you don't, to become one of those investors one of these days. You're going to probably live in some student housing. Why not own some days? Or one of my favorite things that I think is an exciting opportunity is to take a look at assisted living or retirement communities. People are getting older in this society. Lots of old folks. They got to go live places. They can't live on their own anymore. These are very profitable places, some of them, and the companies that own them are very profitable companies, and they pay very, very good dividends on those REITs that specialize in housing for older people. It's just a thing to think about. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be somebody with a lot of money to be able to go out and get started in real estate. There's lots of ways to do it other than just going and paying cash for a little bitty house or house hacking. If you're not ready for that, there are these things called real estate investment. You have to be very, very careful. You have to do your investment research. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm simply telling you that this is a thing that a lot of people have invested in. It's a choice, and it's an option for people if it's appropriate to you, if you've done your homework and those kinds of things. But the most important question that I want to leave you with is this, and this is the thing that will determine whether or not you are prosperous in your life or whether you end up living paycheck to paycheck, and as I said in class, eating cat food out of a can as a Walmart greeter at age 82. You don't want to do that, okay? All of us hate saving. We really do. Saving and investing, it's no fun. It's boring. Who wants to save? Who wants to deprive themselves? Not me. I want ice cream and I want it now, right? I mean, that's how we are. Okay, that's human nature. I'm not going to rail against you. I'm not going to say don't go have fun or don't go buy something that you like. What I'm saying is, if you think of investing or saving as buying something, it makes it a lot easier to do it. Just psychologically, you say, I bought something this month. What did you buy? I bought some Hershey. Oh, really? Can I have some? No, it's stock, not the chocolate, right? If you think in terms of this most important question you should ask yourself, every time you get paid, you should ask this question. What did I buy this month that will one day earn money for me? If the answer to that is, nothing, you need to get busy, and you need to get busy quickly. You need to be buying every time you get a paycheck. You should buy something that one day will earn money for you, because one day you won't be able to earn that money through a job. You'll be too old or too sick, or you'll have other responsibilities and things. Or you may just want not to have to work for a living and a paycheck the rest of your life. You'd like to enjoy retirement, or you'd like to retire early, or you'd like to start your own business, or maybe you'd like to do charitable work, or maybe you'd like to do volunteer work, and go into a 60-hour-a-week job is keeping you from doing things that you'd like to do other than that. Whatever it is. I mean, wealth is freedom. That's what it is. And wealth is not a bad thing. It's a thing, though, that you've got to have a plan for if that's what you want to do. And that plan involves converting earned income into income that earns for you, right? What did I buy this month that will one day earn money for me? If you can point to something specific and say, I bought this, I bought a couple of shares of stock, or I put a few dollars this month in my mutual fund, or I put a little bit money in my retirement account, or this month I finally saved up enough to go down to the bank and get myself a $1,000 CD. I've been waiting a couple of months to be able to do it. Now I've got a $1,000 CD, and it doesn't pay a lot, but it's something I own. It's mine. It pays me money, and it's something I didn't blow the money. Okay, I didn't buy Manolo Blahniks and Chevy pickups or whatever, and I didn't buy One Direction memorabilia, stuff that just gathers dust. But this is something that one day, I bought it, one day it's going to earn money for me. It's going to pay me, not that I'm paying for it. That is a completely different mentality. You must adopt that mentality. You must maintain that mentality throughout your adult life, or you will end up with nothing. Do it, and you will end up with a lot. And those are important things that you need to consider when you're heading out there into the big wide world and saying, I don't want to just earn and spend. I want to earn and enjoy my life, but I want to have something at the end of the rainbow to enjoy and look back and say, I accomplished this, and I accumulated something of worth. Okay? I hope you're all prosperous. I hope you have a wonderful, prosperous life. When you get rich, look me up. I'm taking donations. I'll have a GoFundMe page. Okay? I'm just joking, but I hope you learned something. And if you have some questions, be sure and talk to me. I'm happy to talk to you further about it.